Hello and welcome back to revise GCSEhistory.co.uk, the number one place for your GCSE history revision. This video today is video 2 in the topic Law and Order in the West, and in this video today we're going to be looking at the problems of law and order in cow towns. Okay, so the content of today's video actually goes over two topics. I'd say, although I've put this video in the topic of law and order, it also comes into the topic of the cattle industry, because there is some information about cow towns as well as the law and order problems in the cow towns. Alright, so let's make a start. What were the problems of law and order in these cow towns? Okay, so with the cattle came the cowboys, and these cowboys were causing the problems of law and order. After hard months on the trail, they were paid all of their money in one go. So, rather than being paid regularly at regular intervals while they're on the long drive, at the end of the trail they were paid one large sum of money all in one go, and they wanted to celebrate. This money sort of burnt a hole in the pocket, to use an old phrase, and they thought, right, now that I've been paid all this money, I've got to go and spend it straight away. And they wanted to go out and celebrate and just spend loads of money. So, cowboys also often shot their guns as they entered cow towns to signal the end of the long drive. So as they rode into the cow towns, they'd shoot the guns to signal the end of the long drive. That's just an example of like a sort of a wild tradition that cowboys did. So the cowboys spent their money in saloons, brothels, and they also gambled. So this is a saloon in a cow town. The wild behaviour was made worse by the ill feeling that remained at the end of the US Civil War. So, the cowboys were Texans from the south, and Abilene were northern, which were Union. So Abilene, it was one of the major cow towns, and they were ex-northern soldiers, the people from around that area, but the Texans, the cowboys, were ex-southern soldiers. So there were soldiers from both sides of the Civil War coming together in these cow towns, and they found it difficult to forget what they'd once been fighting for in the US Civil War. So this made behaviour worse and made violence grow. So, not really on the topic of law and order in the West, but here's a bit of information about cow towns. This slide probably goes more in the cattle industry video, but we'll do it here anyway. So, two major cow towns, the one in Abilene, Kansas, and the one in Dodge City, Kansas. So this was at the end of one of the famous long drive trails, and once a year Abilene was invaded by cowboys. It's significant that it's at the end of the trail, because when the cowboys reached the end of the trail, they'd want to celebrate months of boring, monotonous work on the trail, and they also got paid all of the money in one go, and would want to spend it and be wild. So it's important it's at the end. So once a year it was invaded by cowboys. The Abilene cow town had 10 saloons, 3 brothels and 1 dance hall. It didn't have a mayor until 1870. And in 1870, guns weren't allowed to be brought into the town, and cowboys were finally banned from entering the town in 1872. So steps were taken to overcome problems of law and order in the cow town Abilene. So the second cow town is Dodge City in Kansas, and that was on the Western Trail, so it's actually on the trail. It had 8 saloons and 2 dance halls. There were cases of fighting, but it was no more violent than any other place in the West. It was also a haunt for buffalo hunters that were working on the Great Plains, and in 1881 it tried to ban alcohol, but it was unsuccessful. Okay, so we've talked about the problems of law and order in cow towns, but very similar is law and order in mining towns. We did talk through law and order in mining towns if you could look in the topic The Early Pioneers and look at the video called The California Gold Rush, we talked through it there, but we're just going to have a quick reminder of law and order in mining towns, just to remind you of the key points. So because of the large influx of gold miners, mining towns sprang up rapidly in places where mining had lasted longer than a few months. Because they sprang up rapidly, this meant that towns grew before law and order enforcement officers could reach them, and they became quite lawless and quite wild places. So that's why with their problems of law and order in mining towns. Well, the rush attracted the dregs of society. So, criminals, con men, people just out to rob other people were attracted to the gold rush. So the rush attracted the dregs of society. So there were many criminals who stole other people's mining claims. Many criminals will steal other people's claims to successful mines. People stole other people's land and mining stake, and we call that claim jumping. This could be done accidentally or on purpose. For example, if a miner came to a mining town, didn't realise that somebody had claimed this land because the people who had claimed it were out, he might settle on this land, and when the original people who claimed the land got back, this caused a bit of an argument and a bit of a disagreement. That's called claim jumping. Men were often armed with guns and other weapons. This meant that disagreements and arguments could often end in shootings, with people being killed. And there were also no US government law officers to protect miners, so people made their own arrangements, taking the law into their own hands. Heavy drinking was also common. Alright, so that's just a reminder of law and order in mining towns. Okay, we've reached the end of all the knowledge we need to go over for today's video, but here are 4 quick questions based on the content of this video today. Pause the video here if you wish, scribble down some answers to these questions. If not, carry on watching and we'll do them together. Alright, so the answers. Question 1. How did cowboys go wild when they arrived? Sorry, why did they go wild? Well, they wanted to celebrate after many months on the trail. They'd just been paid a large sum of money. There are 2 reasons why. Next question, question 2. What did cowboys do when they entered cow towns to signal the end of the long drive? They shot their guns to signal this. Question 3. How did cowboys spend their money in cow towns? Well, they spent their money in saloons and brothels, and also they gambled. How did the US Civil War make law and order in cow towns worse? Well, as we've said, there were ex-Southern and ex-Northern soldiers brought together in these mining towns, and they found it difficult to forget what they'd once been fighting for. Alright, so there are the answers to the 4 quick questions for this video today. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you found it useful. The next video in this topic is a video on the Johnson County War of 1892. Thanks for watching, good luck with your studies, see you guys soon.